Right. Well, I did have an ABA therapist tell me that if he wanted to talk, he would talk.
Right.
And I looked at her and I said, "Do you know what apraxia is?
Hmm.
Have you ever heard that word?" She had never heard that word.
Right.
So then I thought, oh, we're really in trouble. And so then I found out they were shooting him with a water pistol when he wasn't doing what he should be doing. And I fired them all the next day. I said, "We are not torturing. I'm not into torture. I'm
Hmm.
sorry." I saw these kids, they were, making their verbalization, they were stimming, all the things. And then they'd sit down and start spelling. I couldn't stop crying, Cindy. I cried and cried and cried. I literally went home. I couldn't sleep.
So now he's spelling, and then you learned how to do spelling with him, and he was only 8. So was he allowed to use spelling in school?
Well, the school that he was attending, the ABA school, I told them I was so excited. And I went and I told them all about it. I was like beyond. They look at me and they laugh at me. Funny thing is that months later, the person who had laughed in my face sent a video doing RPM with her child,
Her own
SGC.
child?
Uh-huh. I do know the really hardcore moms that are they hire lawyers and they can get spelling in their school, but one of my friends spent $30,000 to get spelling for her kid. I mean, that's ridiculous. I will say that speech therapists aren't allowed to practice the methods in the school system. They're not. But special ed teachers can. If you
Um,
know what, Cindy, I always say, if you're still doing the same thing you were doing 20 years ago,
right.
something's wrong.
So did you see that with John Paul? Do you think that he could hear your thoughts?
Oh, I knew it before we started spelling. Before we even started spelling, he did things that told me that he could hear my thoughts. And a joy.
So when Houston talks to John Paul, they don't have to be in the same room,
No,
right? I mean, something that you guys always say, they don't even have to be in the same zip code.
and so, we got to a point with spelling, I didn't even talk to him out loud anymore. I just talked to him in my head and he would answer. He didn't even need to talk out loud. This is why it's important for people to know about the telepathy. I have to know. My friend who is a pediatrician, I told her about the telepathy, and she said, "Libby, since you've told me that, when a non-speaking or minimal or unreliable speaking autistic comes into my office, I start talking to them immediately in my head."